Year's 2004. It's February in Phoenix, Arizona. The temperature there is about 67 degrees, very comfortable, with about 50% humidity this time of year. I'm in Phoenix to do some testing for the LPGA, to become a Class A teaching professional, which requires 4 years of study, practical teaching, and evaluation. This particular week, I'll be testing on Sunday. I plan to spend a few extra days in Phoenix and visit some friends of my parents who lived in Hemet, California, which is about a 5-hour drive from Phoenix. My parents had passed away in 2000, and I was interested in reconnecting and reminiscing and establishing a relationship with them. They had no children of their own, and I looked forward to reminiscing on some of the times that we had spent together in my childhood, as I remembered those to be a lot of fun. About 3 days before my departure to Phoenix, my mom's best friend Betty gave me a call and told me that she was feeling ill and that I should probably postpone my visit. I told her I understood and wished her well, and thought about canceling that part of my trip, since I'd now be spending 3 extra days in a hotel with no real purpose or reason. That next evening, I received a phone call from a good friend of ours, Nikita Koloff, who's a former WWF wrestler. He asked me if I was planning on going to Phoenix the next day. I told him of my dilemma of having all this extra time and nothing to fill it with. He invited me to a conference that he was going to be at there in Phoenix and wanted to know if I wanted to attend. I told him that I would look at the proximity of the hotel to the church where the conference was being held, and I'd get back with him. Well, when I MapQuested it, it looked like it was about 2 miles from the hotel to the church. Now, Phoenix is 60 miles from one end to the other, and it was 2 miles. So I called him back and told him I would synchronize with him the next night in Phoenix on a Thursday night. As I arrived at the hotel after a long flight and delays here and there, I was a little tired and I was contemplating reneging on my commitment. But I found my way to the conference. 9,000 youth were entering the auditorium as I arrived. All kinds of kids. Tall, short, large, small, black, white. It was a real artist's palette. These kids had one thing in common. They were attending a youth conference where their faith in God was going to be center stage. They were going to be encouraged, but they were also going to be challenged over the next 4 days. Little did I realize, so would I. Music, ministry, new friends and old were a part of about the next 72 hours. I was so overwhelmed with everything that was going on, all of the activity, the speakers that were presenting, that I was neglecting my real purpose for being there was to prepare for this exam that I was taking on Sunday. I would go back to my hotel room at night, and instead of studying, I was writing notes and remembering things and thinking about the things that the speakers that were there had presented. One evening while we were there, they invited us up in support of or for ourselves for prayer over the ministries we were involved in. At the time, my husband and I were involved in a sports ministry. We were coaching a men's softball team that would travel around the Southeast and present the hope of the gospel to ball players on ball fields and tournaments. People were praying in earnest, and I felt the touch of God come through my life and extend to my husband who wasn't there. See, we were being challenged on every front. Every time we'd go to a tournament, we'd have players showing up late or showing up ill-prepared for the purposes that we were there for, involving themselves in unbecoming behavior on and off the fields in their private lives. As I left the stage, I felt a real assurance and a real encouragement that we were right where we were supposed to be. I returned to the conference the next few evenings, and on that Sunday I did take my test. And I passed, much to my surprise. I recall a scripture, James 1:5. If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives generously without finding fault. That is a great scripture to have in your arsenal, by the way. I used it many times during that exam. As I went to the church that evening, I found out they were going to have a prayer walk on the mountain behind the church the next morning at 6 a.m. Well, I didn't have anything planned. I was intending on catching my flight that evening, on that Monday evening. So I decided to go. Well, 6:45 in the morning in February in Phoenix, Arizona, it's pitch black. I didn't have any clue where I was supposed to be. I just kind of wandered around until I saw what I thought was people gathering at the base of a mountain. Nobody spoke. They just started climbing their way up here and there, stopping now and then to write or pray or meditate or rest. As I started the climb up the rocky path, that was full of sticks and brush and trees, I didn't really know what my next step was going to be. It was so dark you really couldn't even see your hand in front of your face. But I kept climbing. I would stop and rest as it started to get steep, and each time I stopped, I would hear a voice say, "Are you going higher?" I continued the climb, rested again when the climb got a little too steep, and I heard a voice again, "Are you going higher?" As I continued on up and got to the ridge at the top, I could still see people coming up behind me and other people descending down the other side. I walked up the path a little bit farther and was contemplating how I was going to get back down. Then I heard the voice, "Are you going to go higher?" This time I said, "Oh, I'm at the top. Aren't I?" Well, my eyes were directed to the peak. It was a really steep, narrow path. It looked like it had been not as well traveled as the route I had just come up, but I felt a nudge to continue. As I reached the absolute top of that mountain, just in time to see the sun coming up over the city of Phoenix, I saw every bit of that huge sun coming up, rising from behind the horizon, revealing more and more of itself each passing second. I was in awe. What I learned on that climb was not a climb I had planned, but what God had planned, was that through the peaks and the valleys, over obstacles and impasses, God will get us to his intended destination. That climb changed my life. In the valley that I'm in right now, with the loss of my husband, my ministry partner, my friend, I look forward with joy and anticipation of the next climb up the mountain in this new chapter of my life. Thank you.